Okay. Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, this meeting is delayed because we were looking into community warning system issues, and hopefully we'll have an update about that soon. I'm so glad actually that we're gonna have a report about it, and I hope Rick can update us about it. I'm not gonna talk much now, but let's start on the agenda. And before I get this started, actually, Chief Ora from CAL FIRE said they always have meetings on Tuesdays, but he would like to join. Is it okay to move our quarterly meetings to Wednesdays? Anybody against Wednesdays? Okay, so next meeting will be on a Wednesday. Thank you. First announcement is about East Bay FireSafe Alliance. Henry, would you like to talk about it?
Hi, Sahela. Yeah, sure. So a group of us fire safe groups formed what we call the Alliance. It's the Oakland Fire Safe Council, the Claremont Canyon Conservancy, the Berkeley Fire Safe Council, Keep El Cer or Make El Cerrito Fire Safe, not Keep El Cerrito Fire Safe because it's not yet fire safe, and the West Contra Costa County Fire Safe Council. And so the presidents of these five organizations have been meeting every month or even more frequently. And we formed as a group in order to align ourselves with the Coalition of Governments, which is the newly formed group of city and county council members and supervisors that are now meeting, I guess, every month or every couple of months to coordinate under the regional memorandum of understanding that John Kaufman at the Claremont Canyon Conservancy, I guess, was the primary author or spearheader over the years, which has now been signed. And so we've been attending those meetings. We've made recommendations to the coalition on what they should be doing. Chief Haley, I see you here. I know you and Chief Tiley are not in the memorandum, but attend those meetings via Zoom or listen in. So you're pretty well aware of what we've been doing and what we've recommended to the coalition. So we developed a one-page list of recommendations of what the coalition's objectives might be, and it was primarily aimed at what are the most important things that should be done by the various agencies and jurisdictions to prevent a catastrophic fire and to protect homes and lives. And so without going through them in detail, it was clean up the understory of all the hazardous groves, primarily eucalyptus groves, begin removing the eucalyptus trees where possible and reforesting or restoring, which is basically the Sierra Club's recommendation. Do local vegetation management, which the Berkeley Fire Department is now implementing pretty aggressively in 8,000 homes, against a code where every homeowner has to comply with the code. Harden the homes. We all know about home hardening. Evacuation planning, and I think there was probably one other I can't think of, but it's sort of the high level. These are the things that all the jurisdictions and landowners should be focusing on to reduce the risk. And our group was primarily focused on the unlikely event of a catastrophic fire, which almost would require a Diablo wind condition to get going. But it's happened before, and it happened in Oakland, and it happened in 1923 in Berkeley, and it could happen again. It's an outlier event, but it's the catastrophic event we all worry about. So we kind of focused on that. We didn't focus on a lot of general, important fire safety measures. We just focused on the ones that we thought were most important related to the quote big, if you will, the Lahaina event, if you will. So that's kind of what we're doing, and the group gets along well. And we're just a group of fire safe councils. So we've been sort of scratching our heads and comparing notes and coming up with a consensus among ourselves as to what we think we ought to be recommending to the various governments and large landowners. I don't know if I left anything out, Sahel. You're part of the alliance, so
Oh,
help me
you're
if I
perfect.
left
You were
something out.
actually in the reports, but you did more than announcement and you did the report too. Thank you very much for
Okay,
that.
thank you.
So this is the announcement section just to announce
All
that
right, I'm sorry.
it's okay. Don't worry.
Put me
You
off the
could have
agenda.
done it later. You did it now. Thank you. So those who arrived late, thank you for coming. May I ask you to please put your name and agency, and if you wish, your contact information in the chat. And I see a phone number ending in 1166. If you could, oh, that's Judd. Okay, no problem. All right, next is the announcement about new East Bay Wildfire Coalition, or EBWC, of local governments. I was hoping John or Jerry could talk about it, but neither of them could make it today. Well, is just to let you know that the next meeting is on Monday, September 23rd at 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And I will share their agenda with everyone. I'll email the agenda so you know about it. Next on the announcement is $50,000 matching grant that Kennedy Grove FireWise Community won with the help of Contra Costa Resource Conservation District. Zoe, would you like to talk about it? I know you're new and replace Alejandro, but if you could talk about your agencies helping communities, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. So my name is Zoe Fung. I'm the Wildfire Conservation Coordinator with Contra Costa Resource Conservation District. I just started about a month ago. I'm taking over for Alejandro, who used to be in my position, if any of you all have worked with him. So this $50,000 matching grant. So it's called the AIM grant, so Action, Implementation, and Mitigation Grant. And basically what we're doing is we're working with the Kennedy Grove neighborhood in El Sobrante. So they're right up against Kennedy Grove Recreation Area. And so they're in a very high fire hazard area. So we're working with them to do some fuel reduction work. So kind of training the community to do fuel reduction work on their own. And then the grant is also offering us funding to hire a contractor to come in and do some larger scale fuel reduction work, like removing trees. And then as part of that grant as well, we're doing 2 prescribed burns in Martinez with private landowners. And so kind of what the RCD works on, or my position specifically, is to encourage community wildfire mitigation and also to kind of promote the return of good fire to Contra Costa landscapes.
Thank you very much. So the last announcement is about our open house at Fire Station 64. Marilyn, would you like to talk about it, please? You're muted. Please unmute.
Sorry, I noticed that right away. I'd like to give credit actually to the organizers. I'm just following orders, but Susan Nishikawa and Rebecca Arona are masterful organizers. And they have put together a long list of vendors, which include both people with home hardening products and other kinds of community important things. Fire Station 64 is actually close to Highway 580. It's between 580 and 80, so it's not in the high wildfire risk zone. But we still want to support those communities over there, especially for disaster response and protecting themselves for evacuation. So I think everyone's looking forward to it. There'll be really good food. I think they finalized the cooking vendor, but I don't want to say the name in case I'm not right.
Thank you. And if anyone wants to have a table, please let us know. Tables are free, informational table, whatever.
And no tents needed because you're inside of the bay where the fire trucks are normally. Yes. So it's a protected area. No sunscreen required.
There's going to be food and music and fun.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. End of announcements. We move to reports. Sheriff's Office, please. Response to civil grand jury report. If you could update us, Katie, I would appreciate it.
Are you asking me?
No, I thought Katie with BlackBerry is with the Sheriff's Office.
Oh,
if
okay.
she's not available, then I will ask you to please provide this summary as much as you know. Katie,
I
are you there?
can't really do that. I'm not part of the response specific to the alert and warning system. So I don't think there's been a lot of activity since the Board of Supervisors meeting last month that some of you were in attendance on. I know that there's work going on as far as building some things, but I really am not the right person to speak to that.
I think the most important part actually is the county administrator of administrative officers response that, or Board of Supervisors response about a comprehensive study. If you could just briefly tell us what their response says, it'd be great.
Okay, so yeah, the grand jury report stated specifically to alert and warning that they wanted the county to do an assessment of how alert and warning is conducted in areas that could be improved. In the CIO's office, requested to expand that to all of emergency management as far as the county emergency management program, because technically alert and warning is just a piece of a larger program. So that, and then a separate study on the efficacy of sirens, loudspeaker sirens. So there's two separate things going on as far as studies are concerned. I know we have our Emergency Services Policy Board meeting on October 2nd, which is CAO and department heads that are kind of the disaster council for the county. So I can't speak, the agenda is not totally set, but that's the subject of those studies is going to come up there, requesting concurrence or approval from the disaster council to move forward with that. So that being said, it's coming. That the next step I think is it's coming there for the disaster council to approve and make a recommendation that they that the county does a study on the overall program.
Excellent. So this is very exciting, actually, that they're going to do a study of the entire disaster response and emergency preparedness plan. And if you could please send me information about that October 2nd meeting, I'll share it with the group.
Yeah, so the agenda hasn't been set or posted. So as soon as that gets up there, then you'll see it if you go into the county meeting schedule. But yeah, I can forward that information once it's set. I don't have the actual links right now.
Okay, I appreciate it.
But it's, I think, from 3 to 4:30 on the 2nd.
Okay.
There's an in-person and a virtual option, I believe, for that.
Thank you. I look forward to receiving more information. Next, a report about weed abatement and current status of things from the Office of County Fire Prevention District, or ConFire. Michelle, please.
Hi, Sohila, thank you so much for taking me out of turn. The ConFire weed abatement protocol, the current status reported from Captain Ottolini is as follows. The initial reinspection totals are at 4,530. Work orders currently pending are 267. Of those 267, 53 are occupied and will require a warrant. And we have 31 completed work orders. The complaints we've received so far are 398. With that, I will move on to the.
I'm sorry, before you move on, are you talking about the entire county or just West County?
Our jurisdiction.
Okay, and the complaints is by residents?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so they complain about a neighbor or somebody who needs to do weed abatement in their property.
That standard would happen through our evacuation, or I'm sorry, exterior hazards complaint link on our website.
Excellent. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
So the reason I am here today in place of Chief Bachman is because he is attending the legislative public hearing for the California Department of Insurance, who in their catastrophic model rate making public hearing, Chief Bachman feels that the ISO rating is taken into account erroneously because the ISO feeds only to or speaks to only the structure, protection, and response. So
I'm sorry, yeah, tell us what ISO stands for.
Oh, the ISO rating is a fire department rating that contributes to our infrastructure, and it's a public rating that's used for responses that feed to that catastrophic model and rate making process. So the mitigation efforts underway through Measure X and resident engagement is not taken into account in the catastrophic modeling legislation. So Chief Bachman will be speaking here shortly, and I'd like to get back to that meeting to further support him. But I know that it's important that I meet with you here today. Again, he would be here himself, but he's unable to do that because he's attending that legislative meeting. Secondly, Confire was listed as the evacuation study resource for a study update. I'd like to tell you that recently, in attending the mayor's conference along with you, Sohaila, we heard about the Contra Costa Transportation Authority awarded a countywide grant, and I'll pop that information into the chat link. And at this time, Chief Bachman asked me to clarify for you that duplicating efforts with a grant awarded to a transportation authority would really take away from where our focus is, right? If another partnered agency has been awarded a grant to look at evacuation traffic analysis and others, and I'm popping that resource into the grant for you. But I think that duplicating those efforts would be just really wasteful.
So I'm sorry, I thought that the grant was given to Confire to do this study. Is that not the case? The CCTA is going to do it itself?
So I am only aware of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority receiving a grant.
Right, but who's in charge of running this study?
The Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Oh, okay. I thought they would give it to Confire. I was confused.
So
That's why
I can jump in a little bit. I have very little information, but I did reach out to CCTA to find out because there's a lot of different information going on. So their plan is to affect an RFP, a request for proposal, to find a contractor to conduct the study. So I don't know if and when that's going to be, but that's the plan. Is that there'll be a third party that's going to do the traffic studies for them.
Okay, but they'd be responsive to CCTA, not Confire.
Correct.
Okay.
I think there's going to be some kind of committee of subject matter experts to be part of it, but I don't know if that's been developed yet.
I would like us to have a role in it, FireSafe Council. So if you know of any way we can provide feedback, please let us know, both Michelle and Rick. We would be grateful.
Yeah, I reached out to find out what was going on, just to make sure that, we had our thumb on that scale a little bit too. But I think they're still in the real preliminary stage of figuring out what the there is on this. Because I think this money is just to do the transportation study. This isn't going to affect an evacuation plan out of this funding. It's just it's the math and science to get us there.
I thought it was an evacuation traffic analysis. You're saying
so again, I don't think we shouldn't speak to what it is or isn't, but a traffic study doesn't necessarily affect a plan to say thou shalt move here, here, and here. That's just going to say, Ignatia Valley Road can get 40,000 cars an hour in this direction.
Got it.
So this is probably phase one of a multi-phase evacuation plan. So
okay, we will keep it on the agenda for the next quarterly meeting. And if any of you have any contact at CCTA who could come and speak about it, please let me know. We'll invite them to talk because it's important to get updated.
Thank you so
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick, for that valuable input. I appreciate our partnered agencies speaking to what they know, especially in this forum. Finally, I would just like to mention the Confire Open House is October 19th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Several of you will have received the email and invite for a vendor table. Setup begins at 8:15. and then the public is welcomed at 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. There will be free admission, free parking, and free food. And I encourage our partnered agencies to reserve their table with me. And with that, I'll jump back to the legislative meeting with Chief Bachman unless anybody has any questions.
There is a question from Jim Hansen. Go ahead, Jim.
Hello, Jim.
Hi, thank you. Just very briefly, and you may already know about this, but Berkeley Fire recently gave a presentation community forum where they brought up pre-evacuation. And all of us that live in the hills realize how sensible that sounds versus evacuation during a fire. So I would hope that whether this is just a volume study, that's an integral part of it. So I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, for clarification, the CCTA grant was for Contra Costa County, as far as I'm aware of, and not Alameda where you are.
No, I'm in Contra Costa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Pass our warm regards to Chief Bachman. What he's doing is great.
Yes,
I
will
hope
do.
the insurances hear him. Thank you so much.
As always, an advocate for the community, and I look forward to really providing you with an update and supporting him in this process. Thank you.
Greatly appreciated. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And next, I would like to ask Richmond Fire Marshal Chief Munson a report about weed abatement and the current status, and especially in Hilltop Green, if you would, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Fire Marshal Munson, City of Richmond, Fire Department. I just wanted to give you a quick update on the progress at Hilltop Green. They're going through a process right now of completing all of their FireWise, which has been going relatively well. They've had one chipping day that was granted to them from Contra through Measure X, which was successful. And now they have requested one additional green day through the waste management company, Republic. So just for information, every development in the city of Richmond can require and request that the regional or local waste management company provide them a day to give them access to a large scale recycling bin that can be placed at their location for essentially a vegetation management reduction day. So that's going to take place up there. It was just granted. They're continuing to meet their FireWise obligations by coming up with creative ways to reduce the liability in their area. It takes a community effort, a development effort. One of the other concerns was the evacuation route of the area, which has been something that's been a hot topic, but very debatable. Unfortunately, the facility or the development, when it was constructed, only has really one way in, one way out. But it borders the freeway. It borders a robust access way to get out of the facility or out of the development. One of the challenging issues that it borders up to a neighboring city that we don't have any leverage to require or to even do a proper assessment of a evacuation route that in some eyes feels like it's required. That would be the update for Hilltop Green. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Yes. Any plans for the eucalyptus trees in Hilltop Green?
Yeah, so this is going to have to be a joint effort. Hilltop Green is fortunate to have a city park inside of it, which most of the trees surrounding the development or inside the development are essentially on city property. So we are going to do an assessment of that area and work on trying to limit the eucalyptus groves in the area that's city owned. From there, once again, we are going to continue to lean on Measure X for additional funding in that area, but also we're going to continue to foster our relationships to build a better community within that development.
Thank you. Last question, any report on weed abatement across the city?
Yes, there's quite of there's been a few areas of concern that have been addressed. Simeon Court was one that was a parcel that was very large. It's been completed. There's also several other parcels that have been completed in the surrounding areas pertaining to our Measure X fund. Roughly about 7 out of the 20 that were applied have been mitigated and managed. We've also done some work on the access to those developments, quite a bit of access, either through Contra Costa Public Works under the unincorporated area, and then the city of Richmond, and then Measure X funds. So we're working, every day we can to alleviate some of the long, basically not been able to maintain those areas due to funding and resources. So we're doing a better job of doing that annually. One thing of concern is that when we have wildland fires in other parts of the state, it really impacts our mitigation because some of those same people that do vegetation management actually do, fire response, whether it's fuel mitigation for the fires. So that does affect us, and that's primarily why we've been really delayed in some of our accessibility to the contractors that do that type of work. But we're hopefully we will see more work. We realize that work is just not done in the summer months. It's done primarily year round now, but the contractors do take a break for a period of time. We're also working on partnerships with other utility companies, East Bay Mud, PG&E, in order to work out agreements with them to hopefully use some of their resources, whether it's animals for portions of the properties that are very difficult for humans to mitigate.
Thank you very much. Just for the record, I respectfully disagree with the fire department's opinion about feasibility of the emergency, public emergency exit for Hilltop Green, but let's continue discussion on another time. Any questions for Chief Monson? Okay. So I'm sorry that Chevron's not here. We had a specific request for eucalyptus grove fuel reduction, Hilltop Green from Chevron. I'm glad East Bay Regional Park Districts is here. Thank you very much, Chief Healy. Your turn.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I got an update that our grazing has been completed near Candy Grove and I think it's called Patra Drive. Am I pronouncing that correct? All right. And also we had a project on Sobrani Ridge by Coach Drive, and that's been completed. So those are our two updates. The Sobrani Ridge project is one of our last FEMA projects that were part of the FEMA grant that we received 10 years ago now. And we are waiting for, it sounds like a new FEMA grant supposed to be arriving shortly, or for sure in the beginning of 2025. And so we're looking forward to that because it will fund what we call the connected parks. So the areas that the previous FEMA grant did not fund. And so it will touch the other recommended treatment areas. And then we also just want to give one more update about a grant award we received from the Coastal Conservancy for $2 million. And it's not necessarily in this particular area. Most of the project areas are in Tilden, but one of the things that will benefit this area is that we also received, as part of that grant, $500,000 for our fuels crew for equipment. And so this equipment that we're able to purchase for the fuels crew just makes work more efficient. You may have seen it, but there's lots of remote controlled, for lack of a better description, large lawnmowers. They're actually like track devices that can cut brush, and they are remote controlled. And so we're able to use those green climber pieces of equipment to remove brush more efficiently than with people. And it's safer because our crews don't have to go into Poison Oak and do that type of work. We can use the equipment to do that type of work. So those are the updates I have, unless people have any questions.
I have two quick questions. You mentioned connecting parks. Does it affect our area? Which area is that, and how would it be affected?
Yeah, it would affect the Wildcat Canyon. And so Wildcat Canyon will receive grant money through FEMA for our new FEMA grant that should be arriving any day now, but I would guess for sure by the beginning of 2025.
Is that for fuel reduction?
Yes, it's for fuels reduction. We have several grants that are going on right now. During other meetings, I've given an update, but the district, we actually have just the fire department alone, $30 million in pending grant applications. So that means that we've applied for $30 million of grants, and every year, grants that you've applied for in previous years will trickle in. And so this year, we had 2.8 million from Cal Fire for the collaborative grant that we did with UC Berkeley, City of Berkeley, and East Bay Mud, which was on Grizzly Peak fuel break. And then we just received notice that we were approved for another $2 million from the State Coastal Conservancy. We have a $2 million grant over in Anthony Chabot area, which doesn't affect this area. But the other grant that was FEMA is around $6 million, and it's another FEMA grant.
Excellent. So remember the area that we showed you that was banked lands near Tri-Lane? I hope there will be some fuel reduction in that area connected.
Yeah, and I can say some good news about that, and it'll make a lot of sense for many of the people on this call. But some of the areas, like land bank areas, were not part of our original fuels plan. And the type of work that the fire department does for the district is a higher level of an environmental impact. And so the CEQA permitting to do that type of work is it's a higher level of CEQA permitting. And currently, land bank land does not have that permitting. In the past, we would have been challenged to get that area permitted because I like to say we have lots of different constituents. We have people who love all the trees. We have people who don't love any of the trees. We have people who love this tree, but definitely not that tree. Those are all of our constituents. And so we would receive lots of lawsuits that would basically stop all permitting. But now we have the Cal VTP, and we were able to get how many acres was it? Yeah, 2,280 acres permitted through the Cal VTP, which is a problematic EIR through the Board of Forestry. And that was successful, and we weren't sued for that. And we were able to have the first project work in Tilden done with the Cal VTP permitting. One of our constituents who are partners, when they first found out about that work, they actually were concerned and were potentially wanting to go the legal route until they realized the process that we used, and there was no need for all of that. With all that said, we now have a new pathway for permitting that we previously would have been more challenged on getting something permitted. So it would have been not as possible to get that area permitted, but now it is. And so now that we've been successful with the first Cal VTP permitting, we can do the same thing with other areas now that we know this is a successful pathway, and it gives us the ability to identify new areas that are under the park district's management and get them permitted. And once you're permitted, you can seek grant funding. And once you have grant funding, then you can have work completed. Now, when I'm saying work completed, right now there is work being done, but it's at a lower, a less complex level. So you're talking like weed whipping and mowing, not large scale tree thinning, which is the type of work that the fire department performs.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. That's very exciting. One quick question, and then actually I'm gonna shift to new business with everyone's permission. The green climber that you mentioned, could the city, for example, borrow it from you or rent it?
Definitely, there's no renting, but what we could do, depending on, well, one, the equipment that the district uses has to be utilized on district property. And we have to be very careful about having our resources do work that's not on district land. And we tend not even to lend the equipment out even within the district, because the equipment can be finicky. And so when operators aren't trained to operate correctly, it puts it out of service. And so our crews are very protective about that. And so they'll tend to either do the work themselves if another park, even within the district, wants to use it, versus lending it out for somebody else to operate.
Okay, I understand, but please share your experience. I believe you're the first agency in the area getting one of those. I heard good things about them. The city wanted to purchase, but wasn't sure if it's worth the money. It's very expensive. So we'd love to hear about your experience soon.
Oh yeah, it's definitely absolutely. This is going to be our second. Well, the district has many of them, but the fire department will have now two. We started off with a smaller one. We just got awarded to get a bigger one, and they're very effective for thinning brush. They can go on steep slopes, and they're just faster than using people to do that same type of work.
Good to know. Thank you. I'm glad our fire chief is here and can vouch for purchasing one of those by the city. By the way, I saw a large herd of goats and so on the Sobrante Ridge area. It's amazing. You did such a great job that people are complaining more than ever about city-owned properties next to them that have not been done. So yeah. So with everyone's permission, while we have Chief Healy here, I'm gonna jump to new business and then we'll come back to other subjects about the report on the Tilden Park fire. I think it was August 8th or 9th. I don't remember the date. Henry may know, but there was a helicopter used, a fire helicopter, to put out the fire. I would like to ask you if you know how the fire was detected, whose helicopter was it, were the California alert cameras used in detecting that fire, if you could provide some information.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. You said which there were several fires. We've had several fires, unfortunately, in the Tilden area. Are you?
I think she's referring to the one on Abatement right at the boundary, that the turkey that flew into the transmission tower and exploded the transformer.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. The other fires were also put out by helicopters. I thought this was the only fire that where a helicopter was dispatched.
the other there was 3 fires in the Tilden area. The other 2 were near July 4th. I don't remember the exact date, but I remember they were near July 4th. And one was at night, one was during the daytime. This area, and I would include the area that all of you live in, is very fortunate to have many fire resources. So between think about even your own area, between Richmond, Contra Costa County, and Cal Fire, there is a full army of fire resources that are coming to mitigate your fire. And that's not I left out my own fire department, East Bay Regional Park District. And so the same thing is the situation in Tilden area, where we have an overlap of a Miranda Fire Department, Cal Fire, the East Bay Regional Park District, Oakland, Berkeley, Cerrito, we're all tied into the same mutual aid plan. And you have so many resources, it's actually a challenge for the commanders running that incident, because there's going to be easily 26 fire engines there immediately that need to be organized and put to work. That particular fire, our helicopter was doing water drops, but that's not what put out the fire. So in fire, we're always trained that helicopters slow down the fire. The fire's not out until it's put out with people, so firefighters. As we know with the Oakland Hills fire and the rekindle, fire is not out until it is completely out. And you need people or firefighters to do that portion of it. So helicopters help slow the progress of the fire and stops the fire from running or spotting and going at different ridge tops. But actual suppression forces need to make access to the fire to actually extinguish it, mop it up, and truly put it out. And so it's a combination of firefighters, hand crews, air resources like helicopters and air tankers. All of those resources are what helps put fire out. And in this area, the East Bay area, we are extremely fortunate that we have an abundance of fire resources, because citizens are willing to pay taxes to support fire resources. And the reason I'm making that a big deal is all areas are not as fortunate to have as many fire resources that we have here in the East Bay area. And so I know we all are concerned about the fire risk, but knowing what I know and how many resources we have here, that gives me a lot of peace that when these large events do happen, it's not a coincidence that they have been mitigated and we have not had these large fires. Because what my statement's been about these recent fires is every small fire has the potential to be the next large catastrophic fire. And I think we all take that for granted at times, not realizing that all of these wins that the fire departments have been having by suppressing these fires are, could potentially went the opposite way. And so that to me is because of the abundance of fire resources we have here and how we have a collaborative training and just relationships and mutual aid agreements.
Thank you. And the question about how was the fire detected? And there was a report on Berkeley side, I believe, that said people hiking there reported the fire.
Yeah,
But
I
then
heard.
we have cameras. Did they work?
So I don't. So I heard that people are the ones that reported it. I know that we were able to look at cameras virtually to see the fire. The park district has a drone, and so one of our personnel launched our drone. So when that fire was going on, I was able to watch it live from our headquarters through our drone that was filming it. And that was the first time I was able to do that. That was pretty exciting to see a fire happening in real time, see firefighters on scene, and truly from my office, see exactly what was going on. That was because of the drone that was in the area. And it was a bird had hit a power line. And the investigation is still, well, actually, I haven't heard the final report, but I do know that I'm pretty sure it was the bird that hit the power line that caused the fire. In the past, when I was a fire investigator, that was the case many times. It was unfortunately a bird will hit the power line, it ignites, falls to the ground, but it's still on fire, and that causes the first ignition.
So, Hale, if I could add to Chief Haley, I got a report from EBMUD, because this was actually on EBMUD property at the boundary with Tilden Park. It was a turkey vulture, and the vulture survived, believe it or not. The fire was called in by 911 by hikers on Nimitz Way, but it was also spotted from the Volmer Peak observation tower. That's where the photograph of the helicopter dropping water was taken. That was a long, high telephoto shot taken all the way from Volmer Peak. I thought it was the CAL FIRE helicopter. That was your helicopter, Chief Haley, that was dropping water in that photograph?
I didn't see the photograph, but there was
I'll send it to you.
Okay, multiple helicopters, but Cal Fires would be a large helicopter that has red and
Yeah,
our
it would have been yours then. I reacted it was a small helicopter, and I was told by EBMUD that two helicopters and a tanker were dispatched, but they weren't used because the fire was suppressed so quickly. And I was I was told that your fire truck and Berkeley's station number 7, which is at the Tilden entrance, both arrived first. Your fire chief was there and was the incident commander until Cal Fire showed up. So to your point on multiple resources, everybody jumped in the air and on the ground, and they all showed up quite quickly.
Yeah, and that's the same situation in Berkeley or Contra Costa County that you're going to get in Richmond. You'll obviously get your Richmond fire response, but if it's in the wildland, regardless if it's a local response area, Cal Fire automatically now, because it's considered mutual threat zone or MTZ, will send a full response, just 16 additional engines, 2 air tankers, a helicopter, and 2 crews. And then because Cal Fire got launched, the Park District gets launched, and we're sending an engine, a water tender, a hand crew, and a helicopter. My point is, there's lots of fire resources coming to the fire.
But just one quick comment. Your other point was the wind. It's only 2 or 3 days a year we get this on average, but if we had a 50-mile-an-hour Diablo wind, that event might have been much more difficult to deal with. It would have gone into Tilden Park, and the grass fires move fast. It would have been in the eucalyptus groves, and then you have the issue of suppressing the fire in the groves that aren't near roadsides before it gets into the canopy. So the wind is the devil here, I think, and it doesn't happen very often, but it happened in 1991 and it happened in 1923. So that's the catastrophic event that I think most of the citizens are worried about. It's the high wind, hot day, low humidity fire that turns what the resources can deal with very successfully into a catastrophe. And that's I think the outlier event that people are most worried about. It's unlikely, but it has happened before and it can happen again.
It can. For me, that is in the category of the what if, and I try not to let what if take over my life. But
it's more than a black swan, but it's not likely.
and I'm not, just so people know, I live in an area that is high risk. My backyard is East Bay mudland, forested area. Probably certain people wouldn't even want to live where I live, but I still sleep fine at night because we can't control the what ifs of the 90-mile-per-hour winds, but yes, it could happen.
Interestingly, I have an item about PG&E safety conference. So the PG&E had the safety conference. Apparently, it's sort of academy going on for some local government leaders. And I was invited because I'm with the FireSafe Council. They talked about a new invention that it's often tree branches that fall on lines and cut them off and start the fires. And I don't remember the details, but they were bragging about how they manage to reduce or minimize the danger in such cases. And I'm surprised in case of this bird hitting the transformer, what they were bragging about at the safety conference did not work. I'm thinking if everybody is interested, or at least some of you are interested, it'd be nice to have a visit to PG&E or have them present their safety features. As you know, PG&E has not been responsive to us. They're just the opposite of East Bay Regional Park District. And I wrote a letter to PG&E CAO on behalf of the East Bay FireSafe Alliance. We have not heard back, obviously. We are very concerned about PG&E and their equipment safety. We've been asking for 2-3 years about their maintenance records, have not received it yet. With their pylon and very high voltage transmission lines running on Tilden Park and Wildcat Canyon and residential areas in Bowie. Anyway, long story short, I'll try to request more information from PG&E and their new safety features and if they're implemented in our area.
Okay, and if I come across, because I approve the permits that PG&E does frequently to do fuels mitigation on district land under their power lines. And so I'm aware they do work. But if I'm aware of any that are in your particular area, I will pass that information on. Yeah.
Actually, do they show their equipment safety maintenance inspection annual that it's done? All we're asking for is that it's done properly. We don't need details. We don't have the technical knowledge. Do they show it to East Bay Regional Parks?
They do not, but what they do is if I was in a meeting recently about PG&E and work, and our stewardship department had concerns about their work potentially having an environmental impact on some of the native trees in the area. And so they also wanted to make sure their forest practices were correct and not spreading pathogens and things like that. And so we were able to force them to have a meeting to tell us, give us a presentation of why it was not and what their plan was. But it took us several meetings to get to that point. You know, they're a pretty big agency, and sometimes can just do what they do. But only thing I would say about PG&E, they're not government, and so us as citizens, you remember when we're requesting all this work, we're going to be the ones paying for that work because it's a private entity. And so I do see that PG&E is doing work, and then I think if we wanted them to do everything instantly at once, I know me personally, I probably wouldn't be able to afford my electricity bill because I know that they would probably just pass that on to us.
It's coming your way soon. Rates are going up this year anyway, so they may as well do the work. Could East Bay Regional Park District be willing to ask PG&E for inspection, just annual maintenance inspection, to make sure they're done on pylons and transmission lines running in Wildcat Canyon and Tilden Park and all the green area in El Sobrante?
Yeah, we would have the ability to at least enter into a discussion. And I think that they would, unless there's something I'm not aware of, I couldn't imagine them not complying with that request.
That'd be awesome. We would greatly appreciate it, because that's the only thing we care about is the, all the residents in Bowie, and from Richmond, El Cerrito, all the way to Berkeley, we're affected by it. We just want to make sure they do inspect their equipment. That's all.
Okay.
Take care of their equipment safety.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and work on getting in contact with PG&E for that.
Thank you so much. So hopefully we'll have some update by the time we have our next quarterly meeting. Any questions from Chief Healy? We only have 3 more minutes, and I would appreciate it if Darby and phone number ending in 1166 could introduce themselves.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, it's good I wasn't sneezing. Getting back to, thanks so much for your time, Chief, for East Bay Regional. Appreciate it. One quick comment, PG&E has a proliferary of subcontractors they use, such as ACRT. So they'll hire all these contractors to inspect their poles, fly by their high voltage 116 kV lines. And how accurate and attentive the contractors are could vary from one contractor to another. As the chief mentioned, they're a large organization and they're relying on some contractors to do a lot of this work. And then that's all supposed to feed back and get collected at some central point at PG&E. But, the effectiveness of that, I can't speak to.
I appreciate that. And could you introduce yourself? Are you just a resident or you're with an agency?
I'm retired from the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, and I was at Oakland for 32 years. We met at the city council meeting. And my office was in the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Services Operation. And by the way, we did implement a countywide alert system that from where I sat, it appeared to be pretty effective. So I don't know, the main guy that was running that and our interagency communication system just retired. He was a retired commander with the sheriff's office and then took that initiative after he retired. But I'll be meeting with them. If you want, I'll try and reach out to them and see what systems they used, what technology to make it effective. But I get alerts on my cell phone if there's something out of the ordinary going on in Alameda County, anywhere in Alameda County. But we had a whole staff there in our emergency operations center that worked on implementing that system. And I didn't hear any complaints from citizens about not getting alerts. So I think what I should do is reach out to them and find out what kind of resources they used and how it was implemented. I know we rolled out a lot of equipment to a lot of different dispatch centers as for purposes of relaying and implementing different groups of phone numbers.
Thank you very much. Darby, if you could put your email address down. I'm not sure if you're in my list or not.
Yes, I am.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're connected by email and I can follow up on what you suggested, which is great. Thank
Okay,
you
yeah.
very much, everyone. It's 1 o'clock. We never go past the hour. And with that, we end this meeting. Thank you again, and we'll meet at the next quarterly meeting.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.